Hey, Lorney.
Oh, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great. Getting better and better physically. I'll be able to catch up with you sometime soon.
Awesome.
Okay. Just wait till Melanie's finished there and we'll start up. Any questions before we start? What? No questions? How come? Don't mind me, I tease once in a while.
I'm good.
It's boring. What's that? I'm doing great.
Who's there?
Who's where?
Is there anyone physically with you?
Yeah, there's about 60 of us. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
that's awesome.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of us.
That's
8 me,
fantastic.
counting me. And might as well count Melanie too, 9. Yeah, there's about 7 students. Are you gonna be around in the spring?
Yeah, I'll be around now.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Too.
great.
I
Get
meant to
together.
come today, but it's just my day was too full. So this is
That's
I
good.
made sure to make time for it at lunch. So
Yeah,
she
okay.
much for doing these, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to come sooner.
Oh, that's okay. You were missed.
Megwekop.
Yeah. The first word that we're gonna look at today is there's a story behind it. Um, so the word is Kshkiwewzi. It's a very old word. Uh, before we learned uh, uh, helplessness from the government, before we became uh, quietly colonized. There was a word that we used among each other, which was Kshkiwewzi. And now if you can say that word, you can get a medal for that, because it's a really tricky tongue word. Kshkiwewzi. You're actually starting with a silent K with your tongue. Kshkiwewzi. Yeah. And Kshkiwewzi. The, the words behind there are WAG and WIN. Kshkiwewzi is the singular. Kshkiwewzi-wag is the plural. And Kshkiwewzi-win is noun. Self-driven. Kshkiwewzi-win would be self-driven, self-driving. Many people they used to be very careful because of the connection from the heart to the brain. A long time ago, it was very, very noticeable. So we never talked about what we were going to do, because once we talked about what we were going to do, the brain would turn around and say, "Oh, it's done," when we say it. So we didn't say what we were going to do, so that the brain wouldn't note that it had been done already. And after we had done it, then we announced that we had done something. I noticed that when I was a kid, I noticed my grandfather. He would disappear for a couple of days, then he would show up with something new for our farm, and our business. And he would say, well, I went and got 2 new horses with the harnesses and everything, and the wagon will be arriving later on this afternoon. And I would say, wow, you know. And I said, how come you never told me? I could have went with you and we could have drove back together and blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, he said, I don't tell anybody what I'm going to do. And I said, well, why not? And he would say, well, if I'd say what I'm going to do, then I'd go back and I'd do something else. At least that's what the brain would think. So I learned from that I don't telegraph, or I don't talk about going up to the city or flying down to Florida for the weekend. I don't do any of that stuff because that habit starts when you're a young kid and you're given the cautions and so forth. The way I was, you don't telegraph your intentions to anybody. So I kind of your ability to do things is almost guaranteed when you don't tell anybody what you're going to do, because you only have you to answer to. When you only have you to answer to, you don't have to finish by a certain time. You don't have to have a whole bunch of people looking over your shoulder. And it seems to be that you're more able to do what you said you're going to do to yourself. And so it's a big thing. And when you're going to do something for yourself, and you have this ability, Kshkiwewzi-wag-win, you have that. It's almost like you're guaranteed you're going to be able to get it done because you haven't told anybody, and your intention is very singular and it's very focused. So me being not a very ambitious person sometimes, I'm able to get a lot of things done without having to tell anybody. It's almost like you're asking permission. Is it okay if I do this? Do you think I'll succeed? Blah, blah, blah. And when I do that, I seem to defocus myself. So a lot of times, like some of the things that are happening in my life, some of them are very focused, and some of the stuff that depends on somebody else, I have to be able to put it on a focus sheet, because if I put it too much on the side and lose sight of it, it stays on the shelf and wants something. So I try to have a focus sheet so that I have a deadline on my focus sheet for myself. Because a dream is just a dream until you put a time limit on it, and then it becomes something different. And those are some of the things that I learned from my grandfather. And at that time, most people that were going to do things, that is how they did them. They didn't, of course, they didn't never had TVs, or they never had phones or nothing when I was a kid. So there was not too much information given out from a family, say. Things were just done, and we seem to be all the better for it nowadays. And when I go through the different stages of life, I can go on to Facebook, and after about a half hour, I know basically about what everybody else is doing and where everybody's going, and I see pictures of people on holidays and everything, and I say, wow, you know, I wonder how they do that. You must have to have a different headspace to be able to afford to do something like that. Me, I'd be all over the place if I tried to do it that way. So the word Kshkiwewzi-wag-win is the word that went with that. You were self-driven, and when you came in and ended up the way we were with the juggernaut and the government was very busy making sure that we became dependent upon the entity of the government. That way we would have to deal with some of the decisions made through government. To this day, a lot of our of what we do depends on how well we share our intentions with other people. It also has to do with trying to wow other people on look what we're doing and look where we are and so forth. It seems to depend on people being successful on how many people they told what they were going to do. Where I grew up on the opposite way, if you did something and if you're going to do something, you told somebody, your brain got the message, oh, well, we don't have to worry about that. You know, it becomes very apparent when we're fasting. Pretty soon there's going to be fasting time again. And there's quite a few of us preparing for the fast. And nowadays, if I happen to glance, wanting to find out where one of my participants is, I'll go on Facebook and I'll find out where they are. And I try not to stay on there very long, especially during fasting time, because the way my mind works and the way that I try to teach people on how to express yourself when you're getting prepared to work on your being. And a lot of times, some people will say, I'm going to go fast for a couple of days. And I say, okay, great, that's nice, you know. Gives them a head start, but what they don't realize is the first couple of days is the hardest part of your fast. That's when you have a really hard time. After a couple of days, by that time, your ego, your being has talked to the brain. And when it talks to the brain, it says, you know, we got to do something, man. This guy's going to kill us. He's going to starve us to death. So you got to do something. Come up with a plan, because I'm pretty sure this guy's trying to kill us, trying to starve us to death. And so after a couple of days, you don't feel hungry anymore, because the brain has adjusted to whatever you seem to be going to do. And so what a lot of people don't understand is after a couple of days, after you've starved for a couple of days, 2 days later, you're not hungry anymore. And you almost would get kind of ill thinking about eating something and so forth. You were going to ask something? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was just.
The rules are for fasting. Can't eat. You can't eat. You shouldn't drink water. You shouldn't. Depending on what you're going to fast. What are your? If you're going to have a hard time, if you're going to distract your mind, there's about 50 reasons for fasting. Maybe probably more than that, but like I did things different with my kids. My two of my kids, one of my own kids and one of my stepkids, I had them fasting for 4 years, 4 days every year. And what they did was they went picking blueberries from sunrise to sundown, 4 days straight every year. And they fasted swimming, they fasted other people, they fasted in the sun. They got very dark. They were in the sun every day for 4 days. And sometimes they went for 6 days. They fasted being with their friends. They fasted communication on the phone. And they did things the old way, except that all they had to eat was blueberries and spring water. That's what they drank, and that's what they ate, blueberries and spring water. Those were what was on the mountains, so that's what they had. They came out very, very, very healthy. And they thought different than other kids. You're doing about 5 different things when you're up there. You're learning how to meditate. You're listening to all the birds and the animals. After the second day, you start to notice that birds take turns talking and singing. They take turns. Even crickets, bugs, they take turns making noise. They don't just all of a sudden, heaven knows what would happen if there was a bunch of humans up there, It would certainly be a different atmosphere. But you're also fasting. You're speaking. You don't talk to anybody for 4 days. You don't visit. You sleep differently. You sleep on the ground. And you pick berries in a very different area. And you learn to have a different thought of what you need in your life. My children, they have a different way of life expression as a result of that. My boy, he's not a boy anymore. He's 40 now, and he's not afraid to go out and work in another country, and he's not. I'm raising him the way I was raised. My grandfather always said, don't stay on a reserve. This whole third island is yours. Act like it is. And basically, that's basically how I learned from, and that's from past and so forth. So as far as other rules, there's different for different groups. Nowadays, we're into a new cycle of life. Nowadays, we have about maybe sometimes 5 or 6 kids get together and they go up as a group. We even have some kids that go in the sweat lodge, bring a cell phone into the sweat lodge to talk to spirits. It's a joke, but it's what they do. We become so addicted to talking, and we become addicted to information, and so forth. We get scared when we don't have a telephone with us for X amount of minutes or whatever. So the evolution of communication changes as we go through time. But as far as fasting, we try to stay with do the same thing we did now, which we did when I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to fast when I was young. My grandmother wouldn't let me fast. My grandfather wanted me to fast, but they had different ideas because my grandmother was a medicine woman, and she wanted me to be able to express myself in a different way. So I was able to put off fasting for a couple of years. So you're asking this because you're going to fast, or you're asking this because you are fasting now? No, yeah, no, I'm pretty open-minded. Some, it's different. Some people nowadays, like we're in the 2023, some people get very hurt very easily. We're in that tender time. We're in the age of all kinds of information out there, and some of us have to step back from it to be able to see who we are when we look in the mirror. And right now we're going through the age when we walk around like the Walking Dead. That's what our brain is experiencing. And so we are reminded by elders of our role as observers at this time. One of the best things you can be doing for yourself is doing exactly what you're doing now, learning another language. When you learn another language, you expand your mind, you expand your brain. You have you develop another body language. When you're studying language, your eye contact, your body language, your pause, your rhythm, everything changes when you're learning another language. One of the ways that you'll know that you're learning a language is your rhythm in life will change. Your rhythm of life will change. Your personality will change. And that's the scary part. Your personality changes. You don't notice it until after a while. You go, holy cow, I'm changing. And like me, I used to have a hard time talking to two people. I was very shy. But when I learned how to speak Finn, I started to be able to express myself in a different way. And then when I learned English, again, my personality changed. Next thing you know, I was almost on my way to joining a band and getting on stage. And I went on stage one time where there was a really sea of an audience, and it scared the shit out of me. Excuse the language. but I thought, well, at that time, I thought, holy man, the energy that hit me was so strong, and the energy had so much information in it that I could have sang out there without an orchestra. That's how magical that energy that hits you is. And without having learned English, I probably wouldn't do such a thing as that. So yeah, the part about the Kshkiwewzi, when I talk about Kshkiwewzi, your skill and your discipline will change when you learn another language that is far removed from what you're doing now. You'll see a picture in about 3 dimensions, 3 different pictures looking at one picture. And most times when we go to a museum and look at certain things, I find myself looking at a totally different picture than the other people that are looking around. I have a whole different idea of which part of the picture I'm looking at. And it's really neat, because then you're able to realize what you're doing and you don't see anything wrong with it. Even some of the habits we have on a First Nation of maybe aggressive, passive aggressive behavior and so forth. I find myself on the opposite a lot of times of that passive aggressive behavior. I find myself in a totally different expression of life. So, any other questions? That was a good question, by the way. You're ready for your first year. Any other questions? Aapiji, Kshkiwewzi-wag-win, nmishshoomis, ndowenjiget. The meaning of that sentence. Does anybody have an idea, any kind of idea of any part of this sentence? Aapiji, Kshkiwewzi-wag-win, nmishshoomis, ndowenjiget. Yellow to your answer. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Aapiji, Kshkiwewzi-wag-win, nmishshoomis, ndowenjiget. My grandfather was a very self-driven hunter and trapper, gatherer of wild dwayiinhg. He knew how to hunt. He knew how to hunt without making animals suffer. He knew how to have respect for wildlife, and he knew how to do things to leave things behind for the next person. If there was 100 beaver in the area, he didn't go and get 100 beavers. He went and got about 25 to make sure that that population stayed there. That idea, ndowenjiget, it meant that he was able to work with nature and to be able to not go against nature. He also knew how to not leave so much sign that he'd been behind, so that the animals would have to move territories. He'd be able to stay in the same area year after year for about 4 years. Yes.
So that was the last word you talking about that like relationship with nature.
Yeah. Ndowenjiget. Yeah. Ndowenjiget. When you say somebody knows how to hunt, you are saying that person knows how to be able to, because he's a good hunter, it doesn't mean that other people are going to starve in that area. When he's a good hunter, it means everybody's gonna have plenty of food. Because he's not only going to know how to hunt, he's also going to be able to know how to have a herd of animals to be able to become even better in life, protected. The meaning of Kshkiwewzi involves the magic feeling when you do the prayer and you put the tobacco down. You also already are waiting for your answer to come from creation. Because if you put your tobacco down and you do the prayer, you're already opening your mind to be able to receive that what you pray, talk to God about, for creation. You can't say around, you can't turn around and say, oh, well, I don't know if I'm going to get anything today. Might be start by next week. Because creation depends on you to be able to be ready to receive what you're going to get. If you're not ready to receive what you're going to get, you're not going to get it. Because creation is also going to listen to that and so forth. Now that some of us have been colonized and we think that there's never enough. When I went hunting this fall to hunt some for some partridge, I was going to have partridge soup. And I met a guy coming out of the bush. And he had 20 partridge. The 20 partridge. And he says, I said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go hunting. I'm going to go hunt some partridge. He said, well, I don't think there's anything left. I got about 20 of them in the back of my car. I said, oh yeah, wow. And I just kept on going. Because we're into this time of we're never going to have enough. And that is what this life, observing of this life is giving us, to no longer be able to behave ourselves so that whatever we've asked for from creation, creation will be able to provide. Because creation depends on us for that. Creation depends on us to be honest with what we're asking for. It's it's kind of like today is almost like a boomerang on creation. You know, we get what we get what we expect, and so forth. Any other comments or questions? I had an interesting thing talked to me about the other day. He says, Lorney, what do you get out of teaching language the way you're doing it? And I say, I get lots out of that. I get to be able to express what I've learned in the years that I've walked. And I'm so glad that I had the people to teach me because I haven't walked for nothing. And I'm pretty darn sure if my grandparents taught me this, because they did it when they were about 84, started teaching me when they were about 84, and were teaching me till I was about, when they were about, my grandma was about 100 years old when she finished teaching me. And so I said, I'm pretty sure that most of what she taught me, I can experience that, you know. And there's so many people that doubt you nowadays. It doesn't take you long before you lose your magic if you're going down the path. Because there's so many people that say, well, yeah, dream on, kid, you know, dream on. In the meantime, I mean, it's myself, okay, well, I still have some dreams that I'm going to live. There's some things I'm going to see. Because magic word is, we all came to observe. Every one of us that's here, we came to observe. It didn't say we came to judge. It doesn't say we came to compare. It doesn't say we came to criticize. We came to observe. To be able to see something happening without being hurt by that, or without an expression of anger, just to observe that. And to sit back and say, this is what's happening. You guys, I'm sure I can hear you.
Sorry. So I do have a question. Like, kind of how many animals and what animals so that you see the balance of each.
How do I determine that? I guess I depend on nature, creation, to be able to determine how many I'm going to get and how hungry I am. for today, not for tomorrow, not for the day after. I don't have to think about how many people I got to feed. Creation will decide that. And it's really hard. It's really hard because the want to prove to yourself or to myself is that I can feed my family. And I say, well, that's not going to be enough. What if so-and-so comes over and gee whiz, I can't think like that. I have to depend on the message that comes. And it's really hard. And like I talk about it like it's an easy thing. Oh, I can do this and I can do that. But it's not that easy. It still has to be, you still have to live through it. And then you look back and say, oh, gee, that was pretty neat. Praying for something. And a lot of times I have to go to sweat lodge and I pray for, openness. I have to pray for knowing, I pray to get my ego aside. We're very fortunate as Anishinaabe people, well, not just Anishinaabe people, but as humans on the whole, like we have a brain neurons in our heart. And when we think from our heart, we bypass something very important. Does anybody know what that is? Most of them, we bypass the ego. That's a really strong one to get past the ego. Because the ego is always trying to tell you what to do. He says, you're gonna have to listen to me, like we almost starved last time, if it wasn't for this and this, we would have starved. And we still have to listen to the message from creation itself. Those are very good questions you're coming up with. Anybody else, any comments, any concerns? I'm getting short on breath because we want to talk to you. I'm like you guys, when I sit in as a student, usually the teacher gets pretty tired of me going like this, because I always have so many questions, and the lessons provide me with so many questions, and since I know how hard it is to teach, I also know how important it is to try to help other people in the classroom so that they can open their mind, because in reality, when you're a teacher, you're actually the most important student in the room. When you think about it, like me, I'm not very much without students. When I did the circles, I encouraged that I had to have at least 20 participants. Because the more you have, the stronger the energy that you're going to work with. The more backlash you're going to have from the energy that you're going to be standing in front of. Like I said, when I stood up on stage with a whole bunch of people in the audience, I couldn't believe until I did that why Keith Richards needed to be on pot all the time. He was trying to survive. The energy is it just blasts you, the emotions and the emotional energy of the people just carry you to the next tune, to the next note that you're going to hit on your instrument, or the next note that you're going to reach with your voice. So it's like opening up your Christmas present on Christmas Eve. that you've been looking at the box for about 10 days, wondering what is going to be in that box. And the magic happens when you open the box and you see a pair of socks. It was the hoping, the expectation of what's in that box. It just drives you. It was worth it, even if it's just a pair of socks. It was worth the 10 days. Like I saw a pair of gloves and I come in here today. Somebody came in with a set of gloves, and I started to think, wow, you know, those would be really neat to wear when I go hunting. And I joked about it, eh? Any other questions, comments? Ngii nbwaach niichkiwehn bijiinaago. Ngii nbwaach niichkiwehn bijiinaago. Anybody have an idea what that means? Without reading the sentence.
There's friend in there.
Yeah, exactly. His friend. Which one's friend? Niichkiwehn. Exactly. That's why I explained some words about 3 or 4 times. And next time you see them, you'll be able to know what that is, and then you'll have an idea of what the sentence is saying. Aanhgwaamzin, bbaamaadziyin. That's a hard one to say. Did anybody ever want to say that? Aanhgwaamzin, bbaamaadziyin. Okay, say it now. Bbaamaadziyin. 2 B's, bbaamaadziyin, means you're going to be heading in the direction of what that's the word saying. You're going to be going in the general direction of your destination. If you were to say, Aanhgwaamzin, bbaamaadziyin, you say bbaamaadziyin, you already know your destination, and you're going straight towards that. Bbaamaadziyin means you're going to meander along, and you're eventually going to get to where you're going. Aanhgwaamzin means be careful. Be careful when traveling. Aanhgwaamzik bbaamaadziyek. Gego, debinaak, Mshkiki, megwekop. Megwekop is forest. Megwekop, in the middle of the forest. Megwekop. Aanhgwaamzin, again, is this one is about 1 or more people. Aanhgwaamzik, bbaamaadziyek. Now the last sentence, Mshkiki, naadin, dwayiinhg. I'm going to see you say about 5 different things, 5 different ways of saying the bush, the forest, the wilderness. One is the one is megwekop, and the other one is dwayiinhg. Don't walk carelessly in the bush. And the last one is I went to get herbs on area left aside. It's been somebody has put aside a place where there's medicines in that bush. Mshkiki naadin. Naadin instead of naadin, it's naadin, which means what? Going directly, knowing the destination. Bbaamaadzin would be you'd have to go and look around. Naadin means he already knows where it is, and he already knows there's herbs there. Nowadays, when I go into the bush, I'm usually give myself a lot of time because somebody might have gotten there ahead of me and picked everything there was there. That's again a vision of experiencing not enough in our lives. Any comments? Any questions? I have a second handout. Nishshoomis, bmosekenh, no all those words. Talks about exercise and what you get out of exercise. And if you like to exercise, if you like to get out and stretch and use your muscles, before long you'll be able to do it in your language, Ojibwe language. Somebody had asked me at one time, about 7 months ago, to advertise the benefits of exercise in Ojibwe. And so I thought I'd use that as a place of interest for you if you'd like to do that, to be able to know what you're getting by exercising. So that'd be a little something to talk about at our next meeting. Any questions? Comments? Yes.
In the last sentence, I think that would that mean this specific area where the earth is?
Dwayiinhg is everything kind of put aside and left behind, sort of, to be able to make room for the herbs that are there, that they found enough of to be able to keep a garden going of herbal medicines.
So that would be other birds in the forest.
Yes. Yeah. If you were to go into the bush, Dwayiinhg, and you see all of the pine, all the red pine are gone. There's a lot of maple. You would be able to say Dwayiinhg, because you're there to go get maple syrup, or you're going to get there to, if somebody wants to make axe handles, so forth. I used to ask my grandpa why he hung his axe handles to dry when he made axe handles. Does anybody know why? Wag-wag-win. They call it wag-wag-win because it's shaped like that. The handle is shaped like that. It's shaped in a curve. And he hung up that axe handle above a stove, a wood stove. And I used to ask him, why did they call it the wag-wag-win? And he said, because it has a curve handle. That is what is described. And say wag-wag-win, you're asking about something that is curved, which is usually, in a trapper's cabin, it's usually always the axe. Then I asked him, why does he put that over, hang it up over the stove? Because I wanted to dry it straight. I wanted to dry it so it'd be straight. And I was a little guy, and I was pretty smart. I said, well, why didn't you make it bend in the first place? But what he was saying was, he was drying it that it would be straight this way, and then he'd be able to curve it. He made it curve so it'll have more strength. And you'll be able to hit wood hard with it to split your wood. Because he told me later on, if it was straight, you would be hitting on an angle. And if it's crooked, you're hitting it with all the weight. It's really interesting how those old guys used to think. I would have thought, well, gee, that's really strange. The other word that nbwaach, someone is to visit somebody. Nbwaach. And ndowenjiget, it means to look for somebody. Ndowenjiget. Bijiinaago means I found him. Bijiinaago. We're having a 7-day land experience sometime in May. Does anybody know what date it is? 13th? Yeah, it starts on the 13th and it's over on the 20th or 21st. And this time we're going to be learning how to open everybody's mind to be able to experience that bush experience. Hope it's as good as it was last year. Last year was beyond my wildest dreams. For the fact that we all came out of there best friends. Nobody ran away. Nobody had to be tied down after a couple of days. It was pretty neat. We're going to be experiencing that again this year. And I'm really, really looking forward to that. Yeah. Last question before we go. Or should we just go? Okay, nobody? We have 4 minutes. How's your experience? I forgot your name again. Yeah. I can't hear you. Okay. Well, how are you experiencing February? It's the snow and everything. It's good. Which I'll try to get this stuff done there before we go back next year. Next week. It's not going to take me a year. Huh? Good.